Subscribe to this channel right now. New documents have already been released. We'll get to those during the live stream. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel. The link is below in the description and also in the pinned comment after this live stream. To my super chat, thank you. I can't do this without you, and I appreciate your support. To my viewers for so many years around the world, thank you so very much. And to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, The Federalist, Salon, other publications, go to hagoodman.com. Democratic fundraising committees declined to say whether they will donate or give back Jeffrey Epp. We'll just call him that for the algorithm's contribution. Okay, this is a Democratic Party scandal. We'll get to the Democratic Party Congresswoman indicted, facing potentially decades in prison. We'll get to the text messages in real time with one Democrat. But this is a Democratic Party scandal. It is not a scandal about class or elites or, you could say that, but it's really the Democratic Party got $80,000 from Jeffrey Epp. This is the CNBC article. The Democratic National Committee, not the Republican National Committee, the Democratic National Committee. It's not a societal issue, although you can also say it is somewhat. He didn't donate to a committee or a person called society. He donated to Democrats, the Democratic National Committee. $80,000, $139,000 according to Open Secrets. To Democrats, $77,000 to John Kerry and others. Then he gave $20,000 to Hillary Clinton, according to ABC News. Now, the guilt by association with Trump is one photo. They have one photo on Trump, and that's it. There's zero link in terms of funding, in terms of money trail, in terms of dating advice, which is why Larry Summers apparently resigned from a board and now is under investigation by Harvard University. Okay, so he gave money for political protection. Okay, he gave money for favors. He gave money to get something in return from Democrats. This doesn't mean that Republicans are innocent and wonderful, and George Bush's presidency got us into never-ending military conflict. Okay, we can go back in the early 2000s. Yes, the Republicans back then. We can talk about the foreign policy catastrophe. This is a Democratic Party scandal. That doesn't mean that everyone else is pure and innocent, but Trump has nothing to do with it. These are donations, $20,000 to Hillary Clinton, to John Kerry, $22,000 to Chuck Schumer. Could you imagine if $22,000 was given to Mitch McConnell? I think people would care. From Jeffrey Epp. Then you get $50,000 to Bill Richardson, okay? Then you get $8,000 to Congresswoman Plaskett. Let's see, $8,100, and then she ended up texting him, okay? So the DNC got money, individuals got money, and then you have a plane. Okay, this is a 2008 article from The Guardian. He did not lend his plane to a Republican. He lent his plane to Bill Clinton, according to The Guardian. In 2008, a mysterious Wall Street money man who holidayed with Prince Andrew and lent his private jet to Bill Clinton. Okay, so he's lending jets. He's texting Democrats during congressional hearings. He's giving $22,000 to Chuck Schumer, okay, and $20,000 to Hillary Clinton. And the DNC is getting $80,000 from him. And then that's not including, or perhaps including, who knows, the money trail is so sordid, $139,000 to various other Democrats. And he only gave 18 to Republicans, yes. But those were like, we consider never Trump Republicans. But hit subscribe to this channel right now. It's not a societal problem, although you could say it is somewhat. It's not a problem of elites and class, although you could kind of correlate that. It's a Democratic Party fundraising scandal. End of story. Because from Harvey Weinstein we'll get to the FTX crypto Ponzi scheme debacle, their second largest donor. They can't get money without going through the most shady, possibly criminal means. But check this out. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Ep gave money for a reason. He gave money to Democrats for a reason. He was able to get away with his crimes almost certainly because of the money he gave to Democrats. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. To my super chat, thank you.
Meanwhile, a Democratic Congresswoman could be facing 53 years behind bars after she was indicted by a grand jury in Florida yesterday. Congresswoman Sheila Cherfilus McCormick is accused of stealing $5 million in FEMA disaster funds and using it to bankroll her 2021 congressional campaign. Mark Meredith is live in Washington with more on this. Good morning, Mark.
Griff, this is a wild story. Good morning to you. The Democratic Congresswoman is one of 4 people accused of stealing taxpayer money to help win an election. The indictment handed down in Miami offers some stunning details about an alleged scheme also under review by the House Ethics Committee. The Justice Department charging 46-year-old Representative Sheila Cherfilus McCormick of stealing disaster funds meant to help with COVID vaccinations, then laundering the money so she could run for Congress. Her brother, a political operative, and an accountant are also facing charges. The Attorney General says the Congresswoman conspired to steal $5 million, then tried to hide the money through multiple accounts to disguise its source. In a statement overnight, Pam Bondi said no one is above the law, least of all powerful people who rob taxpayers for personal gain. We will follow the facts in this case and deliver justice. Within the last hour, Fox obtained a statement from the Congresswoman's office. Cherfilus McCormick is denying the charges, writing, "This is an unjust, baseless sham indictment, and I am innocent. The timing alone is curious and clearly meant to distract from far more pressing national issues. From day one, I have cooperated with every lawful request, and I will continue to do so until this matter is resolved." We're hearing from fellow Florida Congressman Greg Steube. He issued a blistering statement over this, saying this is one of the most egregious abuses of public trust I have ever seen. Stealing $5 million in taxpayer disaster funds from FEMA, of all places.
So the problem is that Republicans have been also guilty of this as well to an extent, but Democrats take it to another level. The campaign donations, whether it's money for the Steele dossier, so Bernie Sanders was cheated in 2016, the money that his donors gave, his supporters, was used to buy a dossier, which, of course, the DNC and Hillary Clinton paid a Federal Election Commission fine over. Then you have FTX. Then you have the Jeffrey Epstein money. Then now you have this scandal here where a Democrat, a sitting congresswoman, is indicted for allegedly stealing $5 million of taxpayer money and then funneling some of that to the campaign, allegedly, possibly.
Is beyond indefensible. Steube says today he plans to file a motion to censure his colleague and also hopes to expel her from Congress. We got a camera up on Capitol Hill, Griff. We're trying to catch her if she pops in to her office today. Griff?
And we will be watching. Mark Meredith, live for us in Washington. Mark, thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmer.
So then you have a really hilarious episode right here where Congresswoman Crockett basically accused Lee Zeldin of taking donations from Jeffrey Epstein, but it was a different Jeffrey Epstein. It happened to be a doctor.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Joe, also recently claimed that a whole slew of Republicans took money from Jeffrey Epstein, but she may have gotten a little bit over her skis. Listen to this.
Folks who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly: Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush.
Do you want to correct the record on the people that
So Mitt Romney is a never Trump Republican. Bush is as well. And the NRCC, that's interesting. But he gave, let's compare the money he gave to the DNC versus the NRCC, but let's continue. Then when she's caught here having to admit that it was a different Jeffrey Epstein, so Lee Zeldin never took money from Jeffrey Epstein. He took money from a doctor with the same name. And so Congresswoman Crockett, when confronted with the fact that she accused Lee Zeldin of something he didn't do, just doubles down on it.
Do you want to correct the record on the people that
Listen, I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen because I knew that they didn't even try to go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled, and that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein, unlike Republicans.
What?
I at least don't go out and just tell lies.
So Zeldin responded saying, when you find yourself in a hole, it's best to stop digging. The public FEC report Crockett referenced on the House floor very clearly states that the Jeffrey Epstein who donated to my past campaign was a physician, and the donation date was well after the other Jeffrey Epstein was already dead. But Joe, she told her team to Google and says that she never lied. Your thoughts?
Well, she went on CNN to say that. And if you watch that full interview, you would think that Caitlin Collins, who's sitting there, who pretends to be an anchor on CNN primetime, would have at least pushed her on that, would have pushed out that interview afterwards saying, wow, look at this. We called Jasmine Crockett a dead lie. And she made this ridiculous excuse that she said a Jeffrey Epstein instead of the Jeffrey Epstein. Instead, she's on that network as if she has a cot in the green room. It just appears at any time, whether it be CNN or MSNBC, she is the new cable news star, and she is everything that is wrong with politics and most of legacy media these days. Because, look, she gets rewarded for saying provocative, stupid things, and I guarantee you, instead of CNN or MSNBC or all these other places that have her on saying, you know what, she's not credible, guys, maybe let's not put her on as much, she's going to get more airtime, and when she loses when she runs for Senate, she'll be the next co-host of The View or on CNN with Caitlin Collins, because that's the brand at this point. Say ridiculous things, get the cheap clicks, and then worry about the truth later. That's where we're at this point in terms of legacy media.
So what would be the point exactly of saying a Jeffrey Ep? What would be the point of saying a Jeffrey Ep as opposed to simply telling the truth that Lee Zeldin did not take donations? The donations went to Democrats. Let's continue.
Joe, you said the key word there, Senate. Because I look at this and say, people say stupid things, to your point, on TV all the time. Sometimes me. I know it's a shock. But when you say something that tiptoes along the lines of defamation, you know, you are connected to Jeffrey Epstein. That goes into the category of falsehoods. And the fact that she calls her team as the one that helped her find this information, shouldn't Democrats be a little bit worried that they're thinking of this person and her team for one of the 2 Senate seats in Texas?
That's the thing, right? I mean, you want to build around this brand of Jasmine Crockett. Charlemagne the God, who is a radio host here in New York that a lot of people respect his opinion, he says that she should be the leader of the Democrat Party moving forward. Again, just because you say provocative things on the air and because you go after Trump the way she does, calling him, the next Hitler, that shouldn't be rewarded. Instead, that's exactly what's being rewarded, but she will not be rewarded by voters in Texas. That's for certain. She could lose by 15, 20 points there if she were to run against Ted Cruz next year. It appears like that's going to be the case. She's the front runner right now as far as getting the Democratic nod in that state. But again, that is a losing proposition if this is the person that you're going to put your money behind. That's certainly for certain.
The president just signed the bill that starts the clock for these files to be released, and we've already seen 2 Democrats this week in the news, Larry Summers and Stacey Plaskett, with some pretty unflattering connections to him. So more to come. There could be a tidal wave, and it's clear that this could cut in all sorts of different ways. Joe, thanks for joining us.
So this is a very interesting real-time breakdown of the Plaskett text messages.
Good afternoon and live from Texas, this is the Will Cain Show. We start today with the curious case of Jeffrey Epstein. The big question everyone else is asking, will Congress vote to release the Epstein files? Ahead of that vote tomorrow, though, today, we are pouring.
All of his friends were Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, they went to his island all the time, and many others, they're all Democrats. All I want for people to recognize a great job that I've done on pricing, on affordability, because we brought prices way down, but they're going way lower, on energy, on ending 8 wars and another one coming pretty soon, I believe. We've done a great job. And I hate to see that deflect from the great job we've done. So I'm all for it.
We'll get right back to the show, but first, let me tell you about one.
10 months. The Democrats have demanded the release of the Epstein files. If you went to social media and you clicked on a story about, say, an alien invasion, a warship hovering over New York City, the first comment might read, "Release the Epstein files." It's a curiosity developed simply and neatly just over the last 12 months. And if you take this story in pieces on other networks, what you might hear is that Trump is referenced 1,000 times by Jeffrey Epstein. But you won't hear the rest of the story when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein. We expect, by the way, the House to take up President Trump on that vote tomorrow. And Democrats, as mentioned, are ready. They are drumming up the drama.
The question that's out there, why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Not every American, but so many Americans.
So he doesn't answer the question, which is hilarious.
Are asking, what the hell is he hiding?
He was just asked about Biden. What was Biden hiding? That's the question. What were Democrats hiding for the past, since 2008, the past almost 20 years now, going on 20 years?
Well, that is the question that you just did not answer, Senator Schumer. Why was this obsession with Epstein seemingly dropped in your lap out of nowhere? Where was this curiosity and this obsession where you were in power and Joe Biden was in power for 4 years? You've conveniently ignored the terrible things about Jeffrey Epstein that have been out there for years. Most notably, his guilty plea for soliciting prostitution from an underage girl in 2008. It's almost comical, and not unlike this bit of comedy from writer Jim Downey.
Jeffrey Epstein. I see it. No one, criticized. Yes.
Never said. As pointed out by The Guardian, long after his conviction for sexual offenses, businessmen, academics, journalists, politicians, and royals sought his ear. So while everyone else wants to know when and how the House will vote, the question I think we have today is why? Why did so many world leaders, left and right, why did so many powerful people from every industry turn for advice to Jeffrey Epstein? Whatever the answer, Democrats have quite a documented history corresponding with Epstein. Here's some examples from The Guardian. Larry Summers, Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton and former president of Harvard, discussed his interactions with a woman, and Epstein offered coaching in his response. He wrote, "You reacted well. Annoyed shows caring. No whining showed strength." In another email, Summers opined, "I'm trying to figure out why American elite think if you murder your baby by beating an abandonment, it must be irrelevant to your admission to Harvard. But hit on a few women 10 years ago and can't work at a network or think tank." He implores Epstein, do not repeat this insight. And then there's Catherine Rumler, a former White House counsel under Barack Obama, who sent a message to Epstein calling Trump, quote, "so gross." A portion of that message was redacted, but Epstein replied, "worse in real life," end up close. Epstein was obsessed with Trump. The reason he's mentioned so many times in the emails is Epstein was focused on Trump.
Ep was focused on Trump because he couldn't control Trump. He didn't like President Trump. He didn't like Donald Trump. He liked Democrats and he liked people who he could manipulate. It's an admirable thing to be disliked by a monster. It's really hilarious. The logic is so twisted and warped. If, heaven forbid, Jeffrey Ep was actually friends with Trump, they would say, oh my God, he's friends with a monster. But Jeffrey Ep disliked Trump. Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. And somehow they say, well, what's Trump hiding? It's like, Trump didn't take money. The Democrats did. Trump didn't borrow his plane. Trump had a plane. Bill Clinton did. Trump didn't run New York. Democrats did. And they lowered his offender status. And they did everything possible to protect him because of the money he gave. That's why he gave donations to Democrats primarily. Because in South Florida and in New York, in 2008, from 2008 to 2015, Democrats were the primary political group. You think he was stupid? He's a monster. He's a criminal monster, Jeffrey Epstein, but he wasn't stupid. He gave money for protection. That's why he gave money.
And he connected with people all over the landscape about Trump. There were also powerful conservatives in his orbit. Quote, in several messages in 2018, he advised longtime Trump ally Steve Bannon on his political tour of Europe. Epstein continued in a follow-up email, there are many leaders of countries we can organize for you to have one-on-ones with. Bannon replied, agree 100%. How do I do that? And as recent as 2019, Epstein was, and this is incredible, feeding questions to Virgin Island delegate Stacey Plaskett. In fact, let's dive into their correspondence over at The Wall. This was compiled very well by the Washington Post on a morning of a hearing where the
So this is absolutely unbelievable. Check this out.
House was questioning Michael Cohen. Plaskett was communicating with Jeffrey Epstein. To be clear, this is years and years after he was convicted in 2008 of soliciting a minor. Plaskett was texting with Epstein that morning, the morning of the hearing that was aired on C-SPAN. She texted with Epstein, he'll talk about his grades. Epstein responded, what privilege stands behind the non-release of college transcripts? He then says, great outfit. You look great. All caps. Plaskett replied, thanks.
You have a Democratic Congresswoman getting complimented by Jeffrey Epstein, literally conspiring and colluding in all the different words that Democrats have used that describe themselves, not Trump. You can't even make this up. It's completely outlandish. It's completely outlandish. That's why Jamie Raskin went from release everything to, oh my God, it's just a text message. That's not illegal. And it's like the Democrats never cared about the victims. They cared about the fact that Republicans cared about this issue. Then they piled on the issue, and then it pointed back to their donations. It's unbelievable, the miscalculation.
It goes on. At 10:41 a.m., Epstein, ever the weirdo, texts her, are you chewing? Plaskett responds, not anymore. Chewing interiors of my mouth, bad habit from middle school. Then Epstein asks when Plaskett's turn for questioning Cohen will come up. And she replies, hours, go to other meetings. But then we get to the meeting. Then we get to her turn. Then we get to the questioning of Cohen. And Epstein tells her, Cohen brought up Rona, keeper of secrets. Plaskett doesn't know who Rona is. You don't know who Rona is. And Rona's in all caps. So Plaskett responds at 2:25 p.m., Rona? Then she says, quick, I'm up next. Is that an acronym? Then finally Epstein responds, that's his assistant. Now listen, this is all of how it played out on text exchange. Now I want to show you the video from.
So apparently Keeper of Secrets didn't have many secrets. They're trying to conspire to find dirt on Trump. They have no dirt on Trump. It's always, what is he hiding? Trump almost certainly did all of this. Like, there was never a rift between Elon Musk and Trump. That never happened. Of course it never happened, okay? It was just because wonderful, morally superior, highly educated Democrats potentially were keying Teslas, which is what took place. And so that, and then the stock price tanked because of 3 weeks of 1 month of, apoplectic media coverage. That's just one example. President Trump almost certainly said releasing all the files could lead to lawsuits, could lead to a distraction from what he's doing. Okay. But he said at the end of the day, probably, almost certainly the reason that Trump didn't initially release everything was he wanted to bait Democrats into going all in. So he probably didn't really want to release because of all the potential lawsuits and the fact that a lot of the files are either corrupted, deleted, all that stuff. But he knew that all the files lead to Democrats. That's why Larry Summers resigned. That's why Stacey Plaskett is texting. That's why Hakeem Jeffries, in a fundraising email, a public relations firm reached out to Jeffrey Epstein. That's why all the money. So Trump knew $80,000 to the DNC, $139,000 to Democrats. Trump knew almost certainly $22,000 to Chuck Schumer, 20 grand to Hillary Clinton. Trump knew almost certainly that if he said, I'm not releasing it, Democrats would say, yes, release it. What do you have to hide? He's hiding something. Why doesn't he release it? Then he released it. Now all the files are released. And it all points to Democrats. They're texting. They're asking for money. They're resigning now. And it's just unbelievable, the political miscalculation. This is a Democratic Party scandal. But they don't get it.
From a C-SPAN airing, these are time-stamped. So is the C-SPAN time-stamping of that congressional hearing. And you'll see Plaskett look down at her phone as these texts come in and change her questioning, including not knowing the last name of Rona, who she ends up asking about to Cohen.
Most TD medications.
Weisenberg and other individuals, Miss Rona. Who are those individuals? Is Miss Rona? What is Miss Rona's position?
Rona Graff is Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his, and she's involved in a lot.
So he's almost certainly lying through his teeth. Nothing was corroborated. And then, look, I mean, it's like the Trump curse. Every single person, Michael Cohen, and then Stormy's lawyer, Michael Avenatti, then Comey and Clinton and McCabe and all these people, and Brennan, Clapper, they'll all be indicted eventually under the conspiracy statutes. Then you had people, I mean, you had the former Attorney General of New York, right when Trump's first term, he was, I forgot his name. He was forced to resign because of very bizarre allegations. And then we can go on forever. And you have a famous comedian, with a severed head of Trump. Her life, according to her, changed forever. And why would you do that? Okay, then we can go on forever. There's a long list of people that, Larry Summers, Larry Summers never, I don't think he went after Trump, but again, Democrats asked for these files to be released, and now it's like a whirlwind. Now Hakeem Jeffries has to answer questions. Now Stacey Plaskett has to answer questions. All these people have to answer questions now. And then Jamie Raskin went from, complete transparency to, it's just a text message, it's not illegal.
Time-stamped right there. In that moment, another text from Epstein. What does he tell Plaskett? Good job. Most recently, staff at the Texas federal prison camp housing Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell, they've been fired for leaking emails between Maxwell and one of her lawyers. Who did they leak them to? Maryland Democrat Jamie Raskin, in which...
And this is while James Comey is claiming attorney-client privilege when allegedly his attorney was committing a crime alongside him, leaking information, potentially. And then attorney-client privilege goes out the window when Jamie Raskin possibly, illegally obtains emails. You can't make this up. The quest for power, and it worked in Virginia, okay? You got vile text messages from the attorney general there. He won. So, the quest for power, it works sometimes on a national scale, presidential. They have zero chance. It's J.D. Vance in 28. But let's continue.
She described the cushy conditions there. This is from the New York Post. The emails from Maxwell, 63, were published by NBC News November 8th. The following Monday, Raskin fired off a letter to President Trump claiming that a whistleblower had told Maxwell that he was preparing a commutation application for your administration to review, undoubtedly coming to you for direct consideration. You see, the great irony here is that as Democrats try to draw a connection between Epstein and Donald Trump, they keep linking themselves to Epstein instead. And while another reality reveals itself, Epstein had quite the resentment, of course, toward President Trump.
The dog that hasn't barked is Trump. What do you think he's referring to?
Well, I think Jeffrey Epstein is referring to the fact that he believes that Donald Trump talked to Michael Ryder, who was the Palm Beach police chief in 2004, and began the first investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. I suspect that Jeffrey Epstein, in his conversation or email with Maxwell, was saying he was 75% there, believing that Trump might have been the whistleblower at the time.
Trump might have been the whistleblower, leading to this obsession Epstein had with Trump.
One even more Fox News.
So Ep did not like Trump. I mean, it's just and then they're like, what does he have to hide? So now it's like they're artificial intelligence robots. You've wound them up, the wonderful, morally superior, and it's like, continue saying, what does Trump have to hide? And it's like, what does Trump have to hide? What does Trump have to? It's like, well, you're the ones getting the money. You're the ones getting the plane. You're the ones texting. What do you have to hide? It all points back to the Democrats. It's unbelievable, but they're like, what does Trump have to hide? So they don't. It's like when Congresswoman Crockett literally stated a Jeffrey Ep, then she goes back and says, I didn't say it was the real Jeffrey Ep. I said a Jeffrey Ep. See, I didn't lie. It's like, no, the reason was you wanted to defame Lee Zeldin. And then instead of admitting that the Congresswoman wanted to defame Lee Zeldin, she then said, well, her staff Googled it for, I didn't even know. You can listen to the explanation again. It makes no sense. But all the funding and money it points back to Democrats. Now they're going to do investigation into where the money was located and what else the money was used for.
Who is also running for Texas Attorney General. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you guys.
So I understand a subpoena is meant to get information. You don't know everything yet, but I'm a little confused. Based on what we've learned to date, it seems like this is mainly a law enforcement failure. There was a lot of evidence that Epstein was a bad guy, a creep, a predator, and he got a favorable plea deal. Is this effort to get information from the banks based on a suspicion that actually it was a failure to report problems about him, possibly unrelated to the sexual predation?
Well, the good news is you've got Republicans that have been engaging hard. Jamie Comer's been doing a great job in oversight with 13 subpoenas, getting 65,000 pages of information, a lot of it very revealing, including, for example, having Delegate Plaskett from the U.S. Virgin Islands, who was literally texting with Epstein in the middle.
Then the Congresswoman says, oh, he's a constituent. And then Jamie Raskin said, oh, he's a constituent. She was texting a constituent. Yeah. That's where the island is where all the criminal activity took place. Do you really want to, double down on, yet again, a completely failed political talking point? Yes, unfortunately, Jeffrey Ep was a constituent. Okay, a lot of people suffered, and it was a lot of criminal activity. Unfortunately, he was a constituent there. Why? It's not like he was like some old lady calling about taxes. My taxes are too high, Congressman. It's not like a constituent in that sense. Yeah, he owned an island. Very, very devastating, pointing to Democrats.
Middle of an oversight committee hearing, frankly, while I was asking questions, believe it or not, of Michael Cohen, which is very concerning in terms of she knew that he was a convicted pedophile. She was engaging with it anyway. But all of this activity by Republicans is uncovering how much we've got a lot of networks that were involved with all of this, banks, financial records. Jamie's doing the right thing, pursuing those subpoenas. We don't want any of the powerful individuals and the power brokers to run away from this thing without being held accountable. So we're seeking the truth wherever it may lead. And look, what we've been trying to do, and the reason that it took a little while to get it passed, we passed it out of the House, the Senate, it's now on the president's desk, is just to make sure that none of the victims, there's over almost 1,000 victims, make sure that they were protected through this whole process, make sure that we're going after the rich and powerful who abuse them.
So the Democrats do not care about the victims. Most of the Democrats do not care. If they cared, and I applaud Congressman Ro Khanna, but why didn't he make this an issue in Biden's first year? So, I mean, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And it's like the Democrats, by and large, view this as a political tool to go after Trump, to say, well, what is he hiding? The problem, however, is that now that the files and the emails are released, it all points to Democrats. They have to now defend their actions. They're resigning. They're linked to money, and now there's potential money laundering with one indicted congresswoman, sitting congresswoman. And it's like, this was always a fundraising scandal with Democrats getting money and offering protection, political favors in the form of protection. They knew Jeffrey Epstein was committing crimes. That's why they accepted the money, and that's why he got away with those crimes for a long, long time. Okay?
And I think we're heading down that road, and we'll see what more evidence it turns up as the administration continues to investigate, and so does the Oversight Committee here on Capitol Hill.
Congressman Roy, I want to ask you a little bit more about the forthcoming release of what we expect to be more of these Epstein files, as that bill is now headed over to the White House, or perhaps it's there already waiting for President Trump's signature. And the White House has indicated that President Trump will sign the release so we can see more of these files. What exactly do you want folks to kind of be prepared for? How should we, think about the release of these records? Some people might point out, these documents that are going to come out, it's not necessarily evidence of things. These are interviews. This is a collection of information. Some of it could be hearsay. He said, she said. So how would you kind of couch what we are about to receive?
Well, this is just another step in ensuring that we're going to get greater transparency. And I think the president has been clear from the beginning that he wanted full transparency. So have House Republicans, Senate Republicans, now passing this legislation. It's another step. But look, we have to continue to go through the process that any prosecutorial function goes through, or oversight function like we have on Capitol Hill. I'm a former prosecutor. You've got files, you've got information. Some of it points to someone you can indict, some of it doesn't. Some of it's information that will result in you being able to get a conviction in the end. Some of it isn't. You've got to be careful, obviously. In this case, you noted in the first question, we had some botched investigation by law enforcement 20 years ago, right? Ultimately, Epstein cut a deal and goes to jail for a year, but that's now 20-year-old information. So we're now going through trying to put all that back together with the information that we've got in the files and then figuring out where to go with it. Remember, it was President Trump who indicted Epstein in 2019 under federal charges, and then ultimately got a conviction in pursuing, obviously, Ghislaine Maxwell as well. We were able to indict her, arrest her, and got a conviction. So these are all important things that the Trump administration has been doing, Republicans have been doing. The American people want to know that the power brokers, the rich and the powerful, can't get away with this sort of thing. That's what this is all about. But we have to do it the right way, following our standards and procedures, to make sure we get it done properly to protect victims in the process.
So that resolution, that censure, should have gone through, okay, with Plaskett. The Republicans, and I love Trump, voted Trump, the Republicans made a huge mistake. And every Trump Republican that voted against the censure made a mistake. Just because you have one GOP congressman with a scandal of his own, and then they said, oh, okay, like this mutually assured destruction nonsense. So what? If the Democrats want to retaliate by going after and censuring or getting a resolution against a GOP congressman for a different issue, let them do that. If the Democrats, though, made releasing the files this, political firestorm, only only, not because they wanted to help the victims, only because they thought it would hurt Trump. Because if they wanted to help the victims, they could have done so the first year in Biden's office, or Biden's term, or during President Obama's last term in office. They didn't care at all. They laugh at these things. They don't care at all. It's not even a problem. Okay. But the resolution didn't go through because Republicans said, oh, we don't want the Republican congressman with his ongoing scandal to be for Democrats to file a resolution against him. See, that is no good. That should never have happened. I don't think Congressman Roy. I think Congressman Roy was on the right side of this and voted for the resolution against Plaskett. But anyway, let's continue.
Congressman, wanted to move on to this issue of stock trading by lawmakers such as yourself, or perhaps not in your particular case, but I understand a lot of attention, and everyone maybe would love to have Nancy Pelosi's market returns over these many years. On the other hand, we would like lawmakers to be invested alongside the rest of us in the U.S. economy. There's a particular danger with a lawmaker.
So this is the best thing I've seen. Oh my God. What a return. You could just do the math on that return. You could take a screenshot of this. This is hilarious. 1987, $697,500, and her stock portfolio is now worth $133.7 million. Definitely no insider trading at all. This is hilarious. Only Democrats can get away with this. Like, oh, what about, yeah, but where's the Republican with this return? I don't know. Yeah, what about this? Still not private servers, this, texting Jeffrey Epstein during congressional hearing. You can get away with that. They get away with everything.
Not just the insider trading possibility, but lawmakers can actually they can actually move these stocks by introducing legislation that's perceived to favor or threaten one industry or another. What is the answer in your mind to allow lawmakers to invest and have a stake in the U.S. like the rest of us?
So this is where James Comer just brings all the receipts.
I yield 4 minutes to the distinguished chair of the House Oversight Committee, Mr. Comer, the gentleman from Kentucky.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As chairman of the House Oversight Committee, I've always believed that sunshine is the best disinfectant. For years, the American people have demanded transparency about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's horrific crimes and about the federal government's failure to protect the victims. The House Oversight Committee is conducting a thorough review of the federal government's investigation into Epstein. Our work goes far beyond the legislation before us today. We are committed to accountability, transparency, and justice for the American people and for the survivors of these appalling crimes. To date, the Oversight Committee has released more than 65,000 pages of documents, issued 13 subpoenas, and conducted interviews with 2 key witnesses, both of whom were Republicans. The Trump administration has provided us with Department of Justice materials and access to suspicious activity reports. Unfortunately, throughout this investigation, Democrats have chosen to manufacture yet another anti-Trump hoax instead of pursuing justice. They have mischaracterized witness testimony and selectively released documents complete with targeted redactions in an effort to smear President Trump. For example, former U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr, who oversaw the 2019 Epstein investigation, stated clearly under oath that the prosecution team found no evidence that President Trump committed wrongdoing.
If there was any evidence that Trump committed crimes, it would have been leaked. If there was any evidence that Democrats committed crimes, it would not have been leaked. The media would not have any interest in any investigative journalism, and the money that Jeffrey Epstein gave would have protected him almost certainly. Or would have incentivized any Democrat to not release that information or destroy that information. There's already accusations that Biden's administration destroyed evidence pertaining to Jeffrey Epps and donations to Democrats.
Despite this simple and straightforward fact, Ranking Member Robert Garcia, moments after that deposition, tiptoed out and publicly claimed that, quote, Barr could not clear Trump of wrongdoing. That was a lie, and we have the transcript to prove it. I invite the media to read the transcript. When the Oversight Committee interviewed former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alex Acosta, Democrats whipped themselves into a frenzy trying to manufacture a gotcha moment, but they failed. Mr. Acosta dismantled the Democrats' narrative. His testimony confirmed there was no contact between President Trump and Mr. Acosta and no connection between President Trump in the Epstein case. Next, Democrats resorted to selective leaks and doctored documents to mislead the American people. Oversight Committee Republicans have posted 65,000 pages of documents we have received to date. Democrats, by contrast, have released fewer than 12. In their latest selective leak, Democrats released just three of the 23,000 pages of documents.
They could only find 3, and then of course that backfired. Check this out.
From the Epstein estate. And they made redactions to 2 of those emails that changed both the context and the meaning of the 3 pages they released. When CNN called them out for their deceptive redactions, Representatives Stansbury and Crockett tried to blame Republicans for their own edits, for the Democrat Oversight Committee edits. After Democrats released only 3 emails, Republicans released over 23,000 pages. And what did Democrats say in response when we released every single document that we got? They claimed full transparency was meant to, quote, disorient or distract from their manufactured narrative. These are the same Democrats who chant, release the files every day until the files contradict the story they want to tell. That is the definition of hypocrisy. In contrast, full transparency exposed how Epstein appears to be TDS patient zero. The evals reveal a journalist coached Epstein to blackmail then presidential candidate Donald Trump.
We'll yield an additional minute to the chairman.
The gentleman is recognized.
The files also show that a House Democrat colluded with Epstein during the 2019 oversight hearing to discredit witness with a vendetta against President Trump. And unsurprisingly, Democrats have been silent about their colleagues' coordination with Epstein. Another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event or to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries.
So allegedly, a fundraising email from possibly Hakeem Jeffries' campaign in New York went to Jeffrey Epps for him to meet Congressman Jeffries than before he was in Congress. So again, Democrats, this is a Democratic Party scandal. It's a Democratic Party scandal. It's not a Trump scandal. It's, you could say it's societal and, elitist and, powerful people and money, but it's not, oh, this is just a societal issue. Oh, this is about rich people. Oh, this is about the class difference between how rich people get away with. Well, how do you think they get away with it? How do you think rich and wealthy financiers, or, in this case, get away with? How do you think a rich and wealthy donor gets away with all of this? $22,000 to Chuck Schumer. Why did he give to Democrats to the tune of $139,000? Why did he give almost all of his donations to Democrats? And why did he give all that money? Okay, that's the answer. It's not. The question is, why did he give money to Democrats? The answer is, of course, to be protected. That's how he got away with the crimes. When people say, oh, it's a societal issue, it's really not a Democrat. It's both sides are just bad. maybe in different ways. There's only one political party that basically has all of American media covering for it, and that's the Democratic Party. And so there's only one political party that used a dossier, or literally a fake, phony, forged dossier to set up an incoming president, which is Trump, and call him a Russian operative, which was not only a grandiose lie, it's the greatest political scandal in American history, along with the Biden pardons, which are unconstitutional, along with the Jeffrey Epstein debacle, which was Democrats almost certainly covering for Jeffrey Epstein because of the donations.
As part of their 2013 effort to win a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries' campaign solicited money from Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we found in the last document batch. The files underscore why former President Trump must appear for his deposition. We've subpoenaed him. To date, the Democrats have done nothing to help us secure his appearance.
Okay, again, this is an issue. This is an issue that links also to the crypto Ponzi scheme. Okay, you have another Democratic donor, a billionaire at one point, giving Democrat. It was this individual was the second largest donor of Democrats. The Democrats cannot raise money normally. They cannot. It's impossible. They have to get the Democratic Party brand is not. For some reason, the average American doesn't really want to give to Democrats. So they have to find other means through Hollywood, in this case, a crypto Ponzi scheme, Jeffrey Epstein, a billionaire committing crimes. So, I mean, there's so many fundraising scandals, and we'll get to this in a second. Check this out.
Elon Musk reporting that FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried donated more than $1 billion to Democrats before the crypto firm's collapse. Far more than many expected. A lot of people talking about the $40 million that was donated in some cases to Republicans, but there was $1 billion to Democrats. Musk also.
So this is the way American politics works. Democrats get $1 billion from a crypto Ponzi scheme, and they say, what about the $40 million? It's like, what? What are you talking about? He got $1 billion is a little bit more than 40 million. So like it's with Jeffrey Epstein, they'll be like, well, what about the 18,000? It's like, you got 139,000. It's a little bit more than 18,000. Then the Democratic National Committee got 80,000, probably a lot more than he ever gave. Look at Jeffrey Epstein. You can look at the recent the Congresswoman just indicted. The campaign donations, the endless flow of money into the Democratic Party is almost certainly why Clinton had private servers, the foundation, the laptop. It's all money trail leading to Democrats. The Republicans, most of the scandals are completely fabricated, like Trump Russia. Trump is a felon. Why? Because the FEC dropped the case, the DOJ dropped the case, but the state of New York leveled a federal crime against Trump. The Supreme Court is going to overturn that. We'll talk about that tonight.
Jillian?
Good evening to you, Brett. President Trump doing a 180 on the Epstein files, telling GOP lawmakers to go ahead and vote for this legislation tomorrow that would essentially force the Justice Department to release everything they've got on the deceased criminal. He also today is announcing, it's a big deal, deal to sell American-made F-35 fighter jets to the Saudis. This ahead of tomorrow's royal visit.
I am planning it.
Democrats
packing the court to get a
evidence in the government's possession. It is the determination of the Justice Department and of the FBI that no further disclosure would be appropriate.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this is an issue regarding money. Why did Jeffrey Epstein give so much money to Democrats? Okay, he was a Democratic donor. Why did he lend his plane? Okay, to Bill Clinton. That's the issue. That's the issue. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now, and I'll see you tonight for the live stream. Thanks, everybody. God bless you all. See you tonight for the live stream.